What I'm about to share with you could be the difference between getting help in time and becoming one more family's terrible 3 a.m. phone call. And if you think heart attacks always arrive like they do in movies, with a person grabbing their chest and collapsing to the floor, I need you to stay with me. Because many do not happen that way. Many begin as whispers. A little pressure you ignore. A wave of fatigue you blame on age. A strange breathlessness walking to the mailbox. A sour feeling in your stomach after dinner that doesn't feel quite right. And then 7 days later, or 3 days later, or even the next morning, that whisper becomes a full-blown medical emergency. I'm Dr. Sandra Whitemore, and I need to tell you something that most people learn far too late. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel, because these heart health lessons could protect you and someone you love. Now, here's the truth. Not every heart attack gives a warning. Some strike suddenly, but many people do experience warning symptoms in the hours, days, and sometimes the week before it happens. The tragedy is that they dismiss those signs as heartburn, stress, poor sleep, aging, or just having an off day. And that mistake is exactly why I'm making this video for you today. Let me tell you about Frank first, because his story is the kind that stays with me. Frank was 73, a retired postal worker from Columbus, Ohio. Tough man. Reliable. The kind of husband who still took the trash out in the rain because he didn't want his wife lifting the bag. About a week before his heart attack, he started feeling different. Not sick exactly. Just, off. He told his wife he felt worn out. He noticed that carrying 2 grocery bags from the car made him stop halfway to the kitchen. Then there was a strange pressure in the middle of his chest one evening after climbing the stairs. Not pain, he said. Just heaviness. It faded, so he ignored it. 2 days later, Frank felt short of breath while walking through Home Depot. He leaned on the shopping cart and waited for it to pass. The next morning, he woke up sweating more than usual and blamed the thermostat. Then he had a little nausea after breakfast and told himself maybe the bacon was too greasy. By the time he had the actual heart attack, it was not the first sign. It was the final sign. And that is what I need you to understand today. For many people, a heart attack is not a lightning bolt out of a clear sky. It is the end of a process your body has been trying, very hard to warn you about. Here's what makes this so dangerous. The warning signs often come and go. That is exactly why people talk themselves out of getting help. If the pressure disappears, they assume it couldn't have been serious. If the nausea passes, they call it indigestion. If the fatigue improves after a nap, they blame a bad night of sleep. But the heart does not always stop all at once. Sometimes a coronary artery is narrowed by plaque, then a small clot forms, then blood flow drops, then improves, then drops again. Your heart muscle begins sending distress signals long before the artery fully closes. Those signals can be subtle, and subtle symptoms are the ones people dismiss most. By the end of this video, you are going to know the 7 warning signs that can show up in the days before a heart attack. But even more important, you're going to understand why warning sign number 1 is the one people most often mistake for something harmless, right up until the moment it becomes life-threatening. I'm also going to show you how these symptoms can look different in women, in older adults, and in people with diabetes. Because if you're over 60, the body does not always read from the textbook. Sometimes it changes the script. And when it does, you need to know exactly what you're looking at before it's too late. First, you need to understand what is actually happening. Most heart attacks happen because one of the arteries feeding your heart becomes blocked. Usually that blockage starts with plaque, a fatty buildup that narrows the artery over years. Then one day, that plaque becomes unstable. It cracks. A blood clot forms over it. Blood flow drops. Your heart muscle, which needs a constant supply of oxygen, starts to suffer. If the blockage is partial, you may get warning symptoms that fade when your heart isn't working as hard. If the blockage becomes complete, that is when the heart attack happens. So the symptoms in the week before can be your heart's way of saying, I'm not getting enough blood. Let's start with warning sign number 7, because this one surprises almost everyone. A sudden change in sleep. I'm not talking about the kind of sleepless night you get after too much coffee or after watching the 11 o'clock news. I'm talking about, sleep that becomes restless, broken, uneasy, and strange for no clear reason. You wake up more than usual. You toss and turn. You feel unsettled in your body. Some people describe it as not being able to get comfortable no matter what position they lie in. Others say they wake with a racing sense that something is wrong, even if they can't explain it. And some people notice this for several nights before the real event. Carol, 69, from Sarasota, Florida, described it to me in a way I never forgot. She said, it felt like my body knew something before my mind did. For 4 nights in a row, she kept waking up around 2 a.m. And not in pain, just uneasy. Then during the day, she felt a little more tired than usual, a little more breathless than usual, a little less herself. But because she never had crushing chest pain, she didn't think heart. She thought nerves. She thought maybe she needed to cut back on sugar. She thought maybe the humidity was bothering her. On the 5th day, she developed pressure between her shoulder blades, shortness of breath, and nausea. That time, her daughter called 911. It was a heart attack. Now, I need to be careful here. Poor sleep by itself does not mean you are having a heart attack. Millions of Americans sleep badly for all kinds of reasons. But when a sudden change in sleep appears alongside fatigue, breathlessness, chest discomfort, back pressure, or just a deep sense that you do not feel right, that combination matters. Your body under cardiac stress often cannot settle into normal rest. Stress hormones rise. Breathing can feel different. The heart has to work harder. And the nervous system begins sending little alarm signals before a major event. So if your sleep suddenly changes and it comes with other symptoms, do not brush that off as nothing. Warning sign number 6 is unusual fatigue. And this one is huge, especially in older adults and in women. Not normal tiredness. Not the kind of fatigue that makes sense after gardening all morning or babysitting your grandkids for 6 hours. I mean, a strange exhaustion that doesn't match what you've done. The kind that makes small tasks feel heavy. You walk from the bedroom to the kitchen and think, why does this feel harder today? You fold laundry and need to sit down halfway through. You take your usual walk and your body feels like it's moving through wet cement. That kind of fatigue can show up days before a heart attack. Thomas was 76, living outside Des Moines, Iowa. He was one of those men who prided himself on never sitting still. Every morning he walked his dog, watered the lawn, and cleaned up around the garage. Then one week, his routine started beating him. He told his daughter that shaving felt like work. He said taking a shower made him want to lie down afterward. He even skipped his Saturday trip to the hardware store, which for Thomas was basically unheard of. But because there was no dramatic chest pain, he blamed age. He said, well, I guess I'm slowing down. 3 days later, after taking out the recycling, he developed chest pressure and collapsed onto the porch bench. Here's why fatigue can happen. When your heart isn't getting the blood flow it needs, it can't pump as efficiently. That means your muscles and organs may not be getting the oxygen-rich blood they are used to. The body notices that drop long before you do consciously. So ordinary activity starts to feel strangely difficult. And your brain may register that as exhaustion instead of pain. This is one reason heart attack symptoms can be so deceptive. The warning sign does not always feel cardiac. It can feel like weakness, burnout, or just being old. But if the fatigue is new, disproportionate, persistent, and especially if it comes with breathlessness or chest heaviness, that is not something to just sleep off. Warning sign number 5 is shortness of breath with normal activity. Again, I'm not talking about getting winded after sprinting uphill. I'm talking about breathlessness during things you usually handle just fine. Walking to the mailbox, bringing in groceries, making the bed, climbing one flight of stairs. Some people describe it as needing to take a deeper breath than usual. Others say they feel like they can't quite fill their lungs. Some notice they have to stop and rest during tasks they have been doing for years without trouble. And sometimes this shortness of breath appears even without any chest pain at all. Linda, 71, from Phoenix, Arizona, started noticing it while making dinner. She would stand at the stove and feel almost as if she had been hurrying, even though she had only been slicing vegetables. A day later, she became breathless while putting sheets on the bed. Then, she found herself sleeping propped on 2 pillows because lying flat felt uncomfortable. She thought maybe it was allergies. Maybe the dust. Maybe she was coming down with something. What she did not realize was that her heart was struggling. The week after those symptoms began, she had a heart attack while walking into church. Thankfully, people around her acted quickly, and she survived. Why does this happen? Because when the heart is under strain, the entire system notices. Your body tries to compensate. The heart may pump less effectively. Pressure can build. Your oxygen demand and oxygen supply stop matching. So your brain senses distress and tells you to breathe harder. The frightening part is that many people interpret this as a lung problem, an asthma problem, a weight problem, or simply being out of shape. And that delay can be costly. If shortness of breath is new for you, especially if it appears with pressure in the chest, unusual fatigue, sweating, nausea, or discomfort in the upper body, you need to think heart until proven otherwise. Warning sign number 4 is chest pressure, fullness, burning, or heaviness that comes and goes. Notice I did not say stabbing pain. I did not say the worst pain of your life, because many people never describe it that way. They say it feels like someone set a brick on their chest, or a belt tightened around the upper chest, or like a bad case of heartburn sitting behind the breastbone. Sometimes it lasts 5 minutes, then eases. Sometimes it appears during walking, climbing stairs, or emotional stress, then fades with rest. That pattern is one of the most important clues your heart may be in trouble. Robert was 68, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he was convinced he had acid reflux. Every afternoon after lunch, he felt a dull pressure in the center of his chest. Not severe, just annoying. Then it would disappear. He bought antacids. He changed his coffee. He even stopped eating tomato sauce for a few days. But the sensation kept returning, especially when he hurried or lifted something heavy. His body was telling a very clear story, but he was reading the wrong book. One evening, after carrying a box from the garage, the pressure came back stronger, along with sweat and pain into his left arm. That was the moment he finally knew something was wrong. And that was his heart attack. This warning sign matters so much because intermittent chest discomfort is exactly how a lot of early heart trouble behaves. When the heart needs more oxygen, like during exertion, the narrowed artery can't keep up. So symptoms appear. When you rest, the demand drops and symptoms improve. That brief relief fools people into feeling safe. But relief is not the same as resolution. In fact, if chest pressure keeps recurring, gets more frequent, lasts longer, or starts happening with less activity than before, that is a serious red flag. That can mean the situation is getting more unstable, not less. And when symptoms become unstable, the risk of a full heart attack rises sharply. Now let's go to warning sign number 3, and this is where a lot of people, especially people over 60, get completely thrown off. Pain or discomfort outside the chest. The arm, the shoulder, the neck, the jaw, the upper back, even the upper stomach. Some people never feel much in the middle of the chest at all. They feel it in places they would never connect to the heart. That is why this symptom is so frequently missed. A person thinks it's a bad shoulder, a pinched nerve, arthritis in the neck, a sore jaw from clenching teeth, muscle strain from yard work. But if it appears with exertion, or with nausea, fatigue, sweating, or shortness of breath, it deserves your full attention. Diane, 74, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, had what she called a weird ache between her shoulder blades for 3 days. It would come on when she walked through the grocery store and ease when she sat in the car. Then she felt discomfort rising into her jaw one morning while brushing her hair. No chest pain, just back pressure and jaw pain. She assumed it had to be tension. Maybe she slept wrong. Maybe she was clenching at night. Then, while carrying laundry upstairs, she got that same shoulder blade pressure with sudden nausea and a cold sweat. Her son took one look at her face and called 911. It turned out, her heart had been warning her for days. Why does heart trouble show up in the jaw or arm or back? Because nerves are messy, not tidy. The heart shares nerve pathways with other parts of the upper body, so the brain can misread where the distress is coming from. That is called referred pain. Your heart can be in trouble, and your brain interprets it as discomfort somewhere else. This is especially common in women, but men get it too. And older adults are more likely to have less textbook symptoms overall. So if you get a new, unexplained ache in the arm, jaw, neck, shoulder, back, or upper belly, especially if it comes with exertion or other warning signs, don't assume it's orthopedic just because it isn't in the chest. Warning sign number 2 is nausea, indigestion, dizziness, cold sweats, or a vague sick feeling that seems to come out of nowhere. This one fools people because it looks like everything except a heart problem. You feel clammy. Your stomach feels unsettled. You get a little lightheaded. Maybe you think your blood sugar dropped. Maybe you say, I must have eaten something bad. Maybe you tell yourself it's a stomach bug or anxiety. But the heart and the digestive system have a funny way of overlapping in the way symptoms are experienced. And when blood flow to the heart drops, the body can respond with nausea, sweating, and a general sense that something is very wrong. Harold, 72, from Lexington, Kentucky, felt fine until a Sunday lunch with his family. Halfway through the meal, he became nauseated and unusually sweaty. Not hot. Sweaty in that cold, sticky way that makes your shirt cling to your back. He pushed his plate away and said he thought he was getting the flu. Then he felt dizzy when he stood up. Still no crushing chest pain. So they drove home. That evening, he developed pressure in his upper stomach and thought it confirmed his theory that it was something he ate. At 2 a.m., he woke with chest heaviness and shortness of breath. By then, it was a full heart attack, and they were racing to the emergency room. This symptom cluster matters because many heart attacks, especially in women and older adults, can look more like an illness than a heart event. The person looks pale. The skin gets cool. There is a wave of queasiness. They may say, I just don't feel right. That sentence should never be ignored when it appears with sweating, pressure, weakness, breathlessness, or upper body discomfort. The body under cardiac distress often sends that signal before it sends obvious pain. So if you suddenly feel clammy, dizzy, nauseated, and unwell for no clear reason, especially if you also have risk factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking history, high cholesterol, or prior heart disease, please do not wait it out. Betty was 70, from Knoxville, Tennessee, and she had exactly that pattern. Monday, she felt pressure in her chest while bringing in groceries. Tuesday, she got short of breath making the bed. Wednesday, she had jaw discomfort and unusual fatigue while walking through Target. Thursday morning, she felt a heavy sensation in her chest simply getting dressed. That was the moment her body crossed a line. The symptoms were no longer tied to real exertion. They were becoming easier and easier to trigger. Her daughter, thank God, insisted on calling 911. In the hospital, they found a dangerously narrowed coronary artery that could have closed completely at any time. Betty didn't just avoid a bigger disaster. She got there before the worst happened. Now I need to talk directly to the women watching and to the husbands, sons, and daughters who love them. Women absolutely can have classic chest discomfort during a heart attack. In fact, chest discomfort is still common. But women are more likely than men to also have symptoms that feel vague, scattered, or less obviously cardiac. Back pressure, jaw pain, nausea, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath, anxiety, a sense of unease. So, please don't wait for some dramatic movie scene before taking yourself seriously. I cannot tell you how many women put themselves last. They get their husband to the doctor. They make their grandson's appointment. They refill everyone's prescriptions. But when it's their own body whispering, they add themselves to the bottom of the list. I also need to speak to older adults and people living with diabetes. Heart attack symptoms can be muted in both groups. That means the signs may be milder, stranger, or easier to miss. Instead of severe pain, there may be weakness. Instead of obvious chest pressure, there may be confusion, sweating, breathlessness, or just a sudden drop in stamina. Some people simply feel profoundly unwell. Others feel chest discomfort they describe as burning or fullness, not pain. If that is you or someone you love, please understand this. Mild does not mean harmless. A quiet symptom can still signal a major problem. And in an older body, waiting for the symptom to become dramatic is a very dangerous strategy. Let me tell you one of the biggest mistakes people make. They look for one perfect symptom instead of the overall pattern. They say, it can't be my heart because it's my jaw. Or, it can't be my heart because it's just fatigue. Or, it can't be my heart because it came and went. No, that is not how this works. The question is not, do I have the exact symptom I saw in a movie? The question is something new, unexplained, and concerning happening in my chest, my breathing, my energy, my upper body, or my sense of well-being? When several small clues show up together, or one clue repeats in a worsening pattern, that is when you must stop minimizing and start acting. Another mistake is blaming symptoms on harmless explanations just because the explanation is convenient. Indigestion is convenient. Stress is convenient. Bad sleep is convenient. Aging is convenient. A pulled muscle is convenient. Those explanations feel comforting because they let you stay home, keep your schedule, and avoid the embarrassment of being wrong. But I would much rather you feel embarrassed in an emergency room with a normal test than be right too late on your living room floor. Please hear that. If you are over 60 and you develop new chest discomfort, unexplained breathlessness, sudden fatigue, nausea with sweating, or pain into the arm, jaw, neck, back, or upper stomach, convenience should not be your doctor. So what should you do if you think these symptoms are happening? Here is the rule. If you believe you may be having a heart attack, call 911. Not your neighbor, not your pharmacy, not your daughter in another state to ask what she thinks. Call 911. Sit down. Stop what you are doing. Unlock the front door if you can do so safely. Keep your phone with you. And if someone is with you, tell them clearly, I think this might be my heart. Do not downplay it. Do not say, I'm probably fine. Do not make it sound optional. When minutes matter, clear words save time. And in heart care, time is muscle, and to bother anyone. Or, I thought I could wait until morning, or I didn't want the ambulance bill. But the cost of delay can be permanent heart damage, disability, or death. And, no amount of thriftiness is worth that gamble. Please do not make the let me sleep on it mistake. Heart symptoms that appear at night or in the evening often get pushed to the next day because people don't want to cause a scene. They say they'll see how they feel in the morning. But the heart does not care what time it is. An unstable artery does not pause because you want one more night in your own bed. If symptoms wake you from sleep, if you wake sweaty, breathless, nauseated, or with chest pressure, that is not a time for denial. That is a time for action. Remember, many serious cardiac events happen in the early morning hours. Waiting until sunrise does not make you safer. It makes you later. And later is exactly what we're trying to avoid. I also want you to think about your own risk profile, because symptoms matter even more in the context of risk. Do you have high blood pressure, High cholesterol, diabetes, a smoking history, a prior stent, a family history of heart disease? Have you been told you have coronary artery disease? Are you carrying extra weight around the middle? Are you mostly sedentary? If the answer to several of those is yes, then your threshold for taking symptoms seriously should be lower, not higher. A person with risk factors does not get the luxury of shrugging off new chest pressure or unexplained fatigue. In that situation, the body gets the benefit of the doubt. And the heart gets priority. Now, let me pull all of this together clearly, because I want you to be able to remember it after this video ends. The 7 warning signs that can appear in the days before a heart attack are these: a sudden change in sleep or unexplained nighttime unease, unusual fatigue that doesn't make sense, shortness of breath with normal activity, chest pressure, fullness, burning, or heaviness that comes and goes, pain or discomfort in the arm, shoulder, neck, jaw, back, or upper stomach, nausea, dizziness, cold sweats, or a vague sick feeling. And most important, a repeating pattern of symptoms that becomes easier and easier to trigger. That last pattern is the one too many people ignore right before disaster. And here's the emotional truth behind all of it. Frank did not think he was the kind of person who would have a heart attack. Carol didn't think poor sleep and back pressure could possibly be her heart. Thomas thought he was just getting older. Betty thought she was overreacting. Almost everyone who delays says some version of the same sentence. I didn't think it was serious. That is why this topic matters so much. Not because I want you frightened. I don't. I want you prepared. Fear freezes people. Preparation moves them. And if this video helps even one person recognize a warning sign before the artery closes completely, then it has done exactly what I hoped it would do. So here's what I want you to do after this video. First, remember these symptoms. Second, share this with someone over 60 you love. Your spouse, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your church friend, your dad. Third, if you have had any of these warning signs recently, especially in a repeating pattern, do not just sit with that information. Take action. Call your doctor urgently if symptoms are mild and not happening right now. But if symptoms are active, worsening, recurring, or feel like they could be a heart attack, call 911 immediately. Please do not negotiate with danger. Your heart is not the place to be stubborn, and your family would rather have you cautious than gone. If this helped you, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments which of these warning signs surprised you the most. I read those comments and I pay attention to what worries you. And if you know someone who keeps dismissing their symptoms, send them this video today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, because sometimes the body whispers before it screams. Sometimes it gives you a day. Sometimes it gives you a week. Sometimes it gives you only one small chance to recognize the message and act. Please take that chance seriously. Take care of your heart, take care of the people who depend on you, and I'll see you in the next video.